All right, so today we're going to be talking about stretching. So we're going to talk about why it's important, a few myths, and a whole bunch of benefits that stretching has, not only for your body, but for your mind. We'll watch a short video, and then we'll go through our questions like normal. We have a fun little activity towards the end, and you'll get to see what that is in a few minutes. So first, why is stretching important? Well, stretching keeps the muscles flexible, strong, and healthy. We need that flexibility to make sure we can maintain a range of motion in our joints, so our elbows, our hips, our ankles, our knees. And without it, the muscles shorten and they become tight, and we can't really move as well. And with that, when you go to use those muscles for an activity or a sport, they're more weak and they're unable to extend all the way out like you need to. So what are some myths about stretching? We're going to talk about two. So one myth is you should always stretch before you start your workout. Not necessarily. We want to make sure that we're doing a dynamic warm-up and stretching. To get the body warm, you don't want to stretch cold right out of the gates. It's not good for your muscles. Myth number two, if you stretch before or during your workout, don't bother to stretch again after. Most important part of stretching is to make sure you stretch when your body is warm. At the end of the workout, your body is the warmest. So stretching at the end of it is probably better than stretching before or during. So next we're going to talk about what are some benefits of stretching for your body. So first off, stretching allows for your body to have flexibility. Stretching improves flexibility. The more you stretch and the more you move your muscles, the more flexible you will be. So over time, stretching will become a lot easier, which will increase your flexibility. Flexibility takes time. It's meant to be a little bit uncomfortable, but it shouldn't be painful. So stretching also improves your posture. Like we said, stretching strengthens your muscles and it encourages proper alignment. So when you sit up straight, it may be a little bit uncomfortable first, but it's because your body's not used to it. But over time, it'll get better. And so your posture will be less slouched and a lot more vertical. This will help your spine as you get older. Stretching also has injury prevention properties with it. So the more you prepare your muscles for any exercising movement, so whatever sport you play or exercise in general that you do, the more you're likely not going to injure yourself. When your muscles are warm and they're stretched out, movement becomes a lot easier for your body. It's more fluid-like, which helps you not injure yourself, or injury prevention. It also increases nutrients and reduces soreness. Now that statement's a little bit hit or miss. We do know that stretching increases your blood supply to your body, but it also increases the nutrient supply that your muscles need. And because stretching allows for blood flow and allows nutrients to move to your body, that helps a lot more when it comes to soreness. So it doesn't just say, oh, I'm sore, I need to stretch, and it'll go away. If you're stretching after your workout, it's making sure blood and nutrients is getting to your body, so it will reduce soreness. It won't necessarily get rid of it. So next we're going to talk about some benefits that stretching helps with, not just with your body, but for your mind. So what are some benefits of stretching for your mind? So stretching allows a calm mind. Stretching provides your mind with a mental break. It allows you to just recharge and refresh that blood flow that we just talked about throughout your entire body. This can result in a calmer and more peaceful mindset. So stretching can also release tension. A lot of individuals carry stress in their muscles, so we've been in a lot of stress right now with the times we're in. So stretching can help alleviate a lot of that. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, your muscles tighten. This is a defense strategy your body uses to keep energy going throughout your body. So the more you stretch, the less tension there will be. Stretching is a very effective form of stress management. Whenever you get overwhelmed, just take a minute, do some quick little stretches, and see how much it makes you feel better. Stretching can also increase your energy. Like we said earlier for your body, stretching increases your blood and nutrient flow throughout the body. So when you're tired, stressed out, overwhelmed, stretching can help blood flow throughout your body, which also can help your energy levels. Your energy levels will increase, which will result in a higher level of energy. All right, so next we're going to watch a video.
Thanks to CuriosityStream for supporting PBS Digital Studios.
I don't think that I'll be able to do that.
So start like this.
Okay.
And then lift up like this. Use this momentum to kick your legs up, even if you don't go all the way, not all the way yet. And like bend your legs and see if you can touch the top of your head.
Just kidding. Hey, I'm Diana. You're watching Physics Girl. And last week, I got to hang out with contortionist and YouTuber Sophie Dossi. We did some science experiments for her channel. And while we were hanging out, I realized that as a physicist, I know absolutely nothing about what stretching does to your body and whether there's a scientifically supported way of becoming more flexible. There is. Stay tuned. I didn't know. So I headed over to USC to meet with a biomechanist to find out the latest science.
I'm Michael Rowley. I am a PhD candidate in the Division of Biokinesiology and Physical Therapy.
My first question was, is there something different about Sophie?
You can get into a back bend
Okay.
and like lift up my feet. So
Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh.
Yes, very different. But I mean, like, biomechanically, does she have a superpower?
There's evidence that people who are hyperflexible,
Quick pause. Hyperflexible or hypermobile is actually a scientific term, and there's a test used to determine whether someone is hyperflexible. It's called the Beighton score, and I'll link to it in the description if you want to test yourself. Okay, so people who are hypermobile,
those people have a little bit more, relatively, of the more stretchy collagen than the type 1 collagen.
I need a quick refresher on collagen. Take it away, Michael.
So a bone-to-bone connection is a ligament, and then a muscle-to-bone connection is the tendon. Tendons and ligaments are made up of mostly collagen, which is a type of protein, and there's different types of collagen. So tendons and ligaments have primarily type 1 collagen, which is a really strong type, and then also some type 3 collagen, which will be more stretchy, and then may also include some elastin, which is another type of connective tissue that's very elastic and stretchy. So the ratios of those things can be different.
Got it. So Sophie might actually have a different material makeup of the tissues in her body. Like she might have more of that type 3 collagen, which would allow her to do things that the average person can't do.
Back-wise, I almost can't overstretch anymore because I'm just completely in half.
Yeah.
So it's like I have push limit on that. Like
You can't-
there's just I mean you can't you're not a
Your
ghost.
back through
You're not a ghost,
Yeah.
you know.
But how flexible is Sophie?
Yeah, before I started contortion, I was always more flexible than that average gymnast.
Oh, but even the average gymnast.
Yes.
Not even the average person. Like.
Yeah, when I was little, I used to watch TV with my feet over my head.
Yeah, that's flexible. Okay, but how do you get flexible biomechanically? I guess my first question is, when you stretch, what parts of your body are stretching out?
Yeah, so when you stretch, you're going to increase flexibility and excursion in all those tissues, muscles, tendons, ligaments. The most short-term, the fastest, most acute effects will be in the muscle.
So your tendons and your ligaments are stretching out too. Ugh. How does that work? They seem so 30. This is getting to the heart of what I really, really want to know, which is what is physically happening to all of these tissues?
The actual pieces of physiology that change with stretching. The body will change the water content in the material. That's probably the fastest way. And then you can also induce some stem cells that still live in the tendon material themselves. And those can differentiate into more cells. They can produce more or slightly different types of fibrillar proteins like that collagen that I talked about.
So your body can change the material properties of your tissues by stretching. Cool.
Another way is that you actually modify sensation. So you might experience some mild pain the first time you're going to stretch, but you'll actually desensitize yourself to that pain over repeated stretching multiple days a week for multiple weeks.
Hold up.
Yeah.
One way of getting more flexible is just becoming more numb to pain.
It actually really feels good. It feels like a nice, good stretch. It doesn't feel like a hurt stretch at all.
Crazy. I have no chance.
Another change that happens physiologically with stretching, our muscles have an alpha-gamma reflex loop. So when you stretch a muscle, there's this automatic signal that gets sent to the spinal cord. It doesn't even go up to the brain and back. The spinal cord then tells the muscle to contract. That coactivation would be bad for stretching, right? If you're stretching the muscle and then the muscle's trying to pull back on you. So over time, you can actually down-regulate that reflex loop, and that's been shown to happen when you stretch for long periods of time. Lastly, you actually add length to the muscle fibers. And you do that by adding sarcomeres, which are sort of the contractile unit producing the active contraction of muscles.
Wow. Bodies are so complicated. So let's recap. Stretching can change the water content in your muscles, stem cell differentiation, how much you feel pain, that alpha-gamma reflex loop from your muscles to your spinal cord, and the length of your muscle fibers. That's cool. Now I know what's going on when you get more flexible. Biomechanics is cool. Almost as awesome as physics. Maybe more useful though. Which brings me to my last question. What does science have to say about how to get more flexible? Well, Michael pointed me to this really interesting meta-analysis, which is like a big study that actually synthesizes all the findings from other studies, in this case 23 other studies, which looked at how to get the best benefits on improved range of motion or flexibility. And they found that static stretching, that is when you ease into a stretch and then hold it for 30 to 60 seconds, that's the best for improved range of motion or flexibility. And as far as how much to stretch, they found that 5 minutes total per week of one muscle group was sort of the lower limit, but you didn't see much more of a benefit over 10 minutes a week of stretching. And 6 days out of the week was the plateau of seeing returns. So the more you stretch per day doesn't keep increasing the benefits, but that frequency, 6 days a week, and then the 5 minutes total for that week is what's important. So commence Operation Stretching Muscle Group for 6 days a week, 5 minutes total. Now, of course, different types of stretching have different benefits, so I will link to some of the other literature in the description. But more importantly in the description is the video that I did over with Sophie on her channel. I channeled my inner YouTuber, and we did a challenge where all the science experiments I was doing, Sophie had to do with her feet. She's insane. It was amazing. I had so much.
So I hope you guys really liked that video. We're going to move on to some questions. These are going to take a little bit more thought process than our normal questions that we do. So we didn't really get to talk about this, but I want you guys to come up and think about it. What happens when you don't stretch? We talked about it a little bit, but not a whole lot. So what happens when you don't stretch? When you don't stretch. So when you don't stretch, your muscles shorten and they become really, really tight. So, when you're really, really sore, or when you first get out of bed and your whole body feels like it can't move and it's just stiff and tight, that's what happens when you don't stretch. And we want to try to avoid that. All right, and with our next question, this is going to take a lot of thinking on your part. So what are some other myths about stretching? Besides what we talked about, the two we talked about, what are other stretching myths that you may know? Good. So that's one thing I want you guys to keep in mind. There are myths to stretching. Some just maybe out in the air. Don't try to believe social media. If you don't know if it's a myth or you don't know if it's real or not, you can always ask. I know you guys know how to use Google. Google it. See what comes up. Do your research. So we talked about this. What are some benefits for stretching when it comes to just the body? Just the body. We talked about 4 different things. So tell me if you can remember what we talked about. Good. So we talked about 4 different things. The first one being flexibility. It's what we all think about mainly when it comes to stretching. So flexibility. We talked about posture. We talked about injury prevention. How well stretching can help you when it comes to preventing injury for your body when you're doing an activity or exercising. And lastly, we talked about increased nutrients and reducing soreness. All right, last question. What are some benefits for stretching when it comes to the mind? We talked about 3 different things. So see if you can come up with what we talked about. Good. So we talked about calming our minds when we get overwhelmed. We also talked about how it releases tension in our muscles. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, your muscles tighten up. So when you stretch, it releases all that tension. And lastly, we talked about increasing energy because it allows for blood flow and nutrient flow throughout the body. All right, so now we're going to do an activity. So our activity is charades. Have we all heard of charades? We're going to call this the animal game. So you're going to partner up, make sure you stay distance apart. And what you're going to do is your first partner is going to think of an animal. And they're going to try to act it out with just their bodies. No noises, no sounds, no nothing. The second partner is going to try to guess what animal they are. You're going to go back and forth for a while. You're going to play this for about 15 minutes or so. And we'll be back. All right. So like we said, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. And we will see you guys back here next week for our next presentation.